What the heck happened to the McLaren F1? What started as an engineering passion project fueled by frustration turned into the greatest supercar of all time. Yeah, I said it. The McLaren F1 redefined what it meant to be a supercar. It didn't just break records, it changed the entire game. This is the rundown on the McLaren F1. Let's go! Okay, it's the late 1980s and supercars are all the rage. Ferrari has the F40, Porsche has the 959, and Lamborghini is showing off with the Countach. The whole industry was in a race to push boundaries, faster, louder, wider, but hiding behind the scenes was McLaren, a name famous for its dominance in Formula 1. They were waiting for the perfect time to enter the supercar race. So, enter Gordon Murray, a visionary who wanted to do something a little bit different. Instead of building just another flashy road car, McLaren wanted to make the ultimate driver's car. So, fresh off their Formula 1 success and having just signed Ayrton Senna, who would go on to win 3 World Drivers' Championships with McLaren in 1988, 1990, and 91. And well, they were ready to take everything that they had learned on the F1 racetrack and dominate the streets. The seed for the McLaren F1 was planted in a pretty unlikely place, the departure lounge of Milan's Linate Airport in 1988. Senna had just lost a race, and in their frustration, Murray and the rest of the McLaren team decided that they were ready to beat their F1 racing competition off the track. They wanted to take all the advanced technologies and real-world insights from their decades of racing and turn it into a road car like no one else had ever seen before. Inspired by the spirit of Enrico Forlanini, an aviation pioneer whose name was plastered all over the Italian airport's walls, Murray jotted down his thoughts on 4 pages of lined paper, ideas that would soon become the foundation of the most iconic road car ever built. On one of those pieces of paper, Murray wrote down the F1's most revolutionary feature, the central driving position. He wanted something completely unique, a layout that would put the driver at the very heart of the experience, much like a fighter jet cockpit. He wanted the driver sitting dead center with an unobstructed view of the road ahead and the competition behind. But Murray wasn't alone in this vision. He had other key team members sitting with him. And so, together, they wanted a car that would be special. It needed to be light, have a naturally aspirated big ol' engine, record-breaking speed and active aero, and 100% a manual transmission. And to do this, they had to follow the engineering philosophy of the man, Gordon Murray. Engineer without compromise. The project took 4 years to develop at McLaren's state-of-the-art production center in England. The F1 was hand-assembled by a small team of engineers. And this is what they built. When the McLaren F1 was officially unveiled to the public in 1992 at a private event at none other than the Sporting Club of Monaco, have any of you guys ever been there? Because I've heard it's pretty nice. But this event, it was even nicer and more special. Automotive press, industry experts, celebrities, and a few lucky enthusiasts couldn't believe what they saw. The design, sleek, purposeful. Some even said it would look fast sitting still, but it would also drain your bank account even faster with a price tag of over $800,000. But for those who understood what they were seeing, it was clear that McLaren had set a new benchmark, and the F1 was destined to become an icon. Pop the rear hood, and at the heart of the McLaren F1 was a 6.1-liter V12 made by BMW Motorsport. Ever heard of him? Yeah, Gordon Murray was dead set on what he wanted, a naturally aspirated engine that was all about raw power and responsiveness. So, BMW's top engine designer, Paul Roche, took the challenge and absolutely delivered, producing an engine with 618 horsepower, well beyond Murray's initial target. And this beast? Yes, it was a V12 that could rev to 7,500 RPM, giving this car the power and sound that was 1,000% F1. Let's take a listen. You like that, Murray? Good. Me too. But Murray wasn't stopping there. He was obsessed with making the F1 as light as possible, and that meant using carbon fiber. something straight out of Formula One and aerospace tech. It was the first time that carbon fiber was used in a production car's chassis, just like McLaren was the first to employ a full carbon composite monocoque on the McLaren MP4-1 race car, which made its race debut on April 12, 1981, and it worked absolute wonders. This tech made the F1 chassis stiffer and lighter, weighing in at just over 2,500 pounds. That is lightweight. And the impressive power to weight ratio helped it smash the world speed record at 240.1 miles per in 1998. That is fast. And real quick, if you want to feel like you're going 240 miles per, snag this limited edition Godfather T, or my personal favorite, the Turbo Drip, baby. Both linked in the first comment below. Snag them before they're gone. Now, back to the show. Now, that wasn't just bragging rights for McLaren, it was proof that the F1 was the real deal. Oh, and one of my absolute favorite details, that's pure gold. No, seriously, the engine bay was lined with gold foil. Not for looks, but for heat insulation. The lengths Murray went to in order to save weight was just crazy. Even the tools in the toolkit were titanium to keep things light. Everything, and I mean everything, had a purpose, and that's why most say the F1 turned out to be the ultimate engineering masterpiece, including me. Driving the McLaren F1. Yeah, it wasn't exactly a Sunday cars and coffee cruise. No driver aids, no stability control, no easy peasy automatic transmission, just raw, unfiltered mechanical genius. It was you, it was the wheel, and it was a whole lot of horsepower. Every part of the F1 was built to make you feel absolutely connected to the machine, like you were wearing the car rather than sitting in it. It demanded respect, but it rewarded skill. If you had the guts to push it, there was nothing else like it. For aero, instead of going for those big look-at-me wings, the McLaren F1 played it cool with active aerodynamics and an underbody design that worked smarter, not harder. You see, a sleek, retractable rear spoiler only popped up when you needed it, adjusting to your speed and braking like an AI assistant, and it kept you glued to the tarmac without spoiling your car's sleek, flowing lines. It was subtle, it was definitely smart, and it was just the perfect balance. Period. Just like pretty much every other detail of the F1, it wasn't about showing off, rather showing off how good it was. This was the perfect recipe for the ultimate road car, and Gordon Murray's main inspiration actually came from Lotus, Colin Chapman, my dad's hero. And his philosophy was keeping things lightweight and simple. The interior of the F1 was no different. Connolly leather, seats that were decently comfortable without adding unnecessary weight, and the 3-seat setup. Yes, let 2 passengers sit in your scare chairs and they may or may not be pleased. As reviews started to pour in and more people experienced what the F1 could do both on the road and track, it began to earn its reputation as the best supercar ever made, which got Murray thinking, should we take it racing? Oh, hell yeah, you should. And the McLaren F1 became a legend on the racetrack too. Wow. Enter the F1 GTR. It's like the F1's wild sibling that threw on a racing suit, stripped off its license plate and all its luxury bits, tossed on a massive rear wing, and stiffened the suspension to make it a track-dominating machine. The GTR's engine was even slightly detuned. Yes, better reliability during grueling endurance races. But with its roll cage, racing harness, and aerodynamic upgrades, the GTR was ready for action. But you gotta remember, this McLaren F1 GTR wasn't a purpose-built race car from the ground up. It was actually a road-going McLaren F1 transformed into a racing beast. So it's 1995, McLaren wants to see what this GTR can do and recruits this stud, JJ Leto, to be the nut behind the wheel of the Uno Clinique sponsored F1 GTR. Oh, the weather at Le Mans was brutal. Rain poured down for hours, making the track an absolute nightmare. But JJ, he was unstoppable, and the GTR shocked the world by winning the 24-hour of Le Mans, beating out cars that were built specifically for endurance racing. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Heck, McLaren took 4 of the top 5 spots that year, and the F1's legend only grew. So, what did McLaren do? Well, they capitalized on their success. They built my favorite, absolute favorite McLaren F1, called the LM, a beast born to honor the legend. They were lighter, they were rawer, and they had the same engine as the GTR race car. Only 5 were ever built to commemorate the Le Mans winning race cars, making the F1 LM the rarest and most intense version of an already legendary car. So, what the heck happened to the McLaren F1? The truth is, this car was just a rare breed that existed in a very unique moment in time. The F1 was a masterpiece of engineering, but the level of innovation came with a staggering price tag. Even though they were charging close to $1 million per F1, it was hard to turn a profit on some of the cars. Add in some stiff competition from newcomers like the Ferrari F50 and Lamborghini Diablo. Plus, McLaren, because they did so well, they started shifting their focus back to dominating on the racetrack. And all in, they only sold 106 total F1s. But today, the McLaren F1 isn't remembered for how many were made, but for the legend it became. Yes, the DNA of this legend is everywhere that you look. Sure, today's hypercars like the Bugatti Chiron and Koenigsegg Jesko might have bigger numbers and more mind-bending tech, but they all owe their soul to the F1's pioneering dedication to driver engagement and that no-compromise engineering. And hey, Gordon Murray himself, well, he's doing good. In fact, he's kept that fire alive with the GMA T50. A car that pretty much is the spiritual successor to the F1. It's got the central driving position. It's got the screaming, naturally aspirated V12. It's got a vibe. The vibe. Proof that when something is just right, it never really goes out of style. And as for the F1, it isn't just a supercar, it's the supercar. And for that, I appreciate you letting me give you a rundown on why, how, what, when, where, and why the F1 exists. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe. If you're new, turn on that notification bell. And check out this Auto Lab up here on Turbos, or whatever YouTube recommends you watch next down here. I'm Brad. This is Ideal. We'll see you next week, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle. A lot of love.